let's jump into the demo. I know we don't have a lot of time here today, but I know Dave Silver walked us through the GL side. You will notice there's a planning and budgeting tile here, and we'll access our planning and budgeting template here. So this is the landing page for planning and budgeting. Again, everything that we're seeing today is out of the box. So this is what you'll get when you go live on day one. Essentially, no need to make adjustments to this. You are more, excuse me, you are more than welcome to make adjustments, right? From an implementation standpoint on your own. But essentially, I would say this is going to fit, I'd say 80 to 85% of most of our customers. Maybe slight tweaks to that implementation. Maybe that lasts like 10 to 15% or whatever that may be. Did see a chat here. Oh, okay, perfect. Thanks, Nicole. Good call out there. So, yep, we'll go over workforce planning here, right? That's done more at an individual basis by each employee within the organization. It can also be like, W-2s, contractors, current employees, but also to-be hires as well. We have a bottoms-up forecast, right? So you can do a bottoms-up forecast, reforecast, but you can also do top-level adjustments as well. So when it comes to revenue planning, expense planning, working capital planning, that's all included in that out-of-the-box functionality. You'll have all three financial statements within the GL side, but within planning and budgeting, you'll have actuals, but you also have the forecasts that you built up, right? So whether it's, this month's, the current year, the following year's projections, you'll have all three financial statements and its projections. Cool. And
Hey, Vince,
yes.
When you say all three, are you talking about timing, or are you talking about balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow? What are we talking about?
The latter. So all three financial statements. Yep. So
okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Perfect.
And last but not least, so the reporting and analytics tile, right? This is very much used by core finance, but also if you have department heads that you want in the system, they can go and actually even look at their own performance to budget, look at their variances, look at their KPIs. So I know we talked about Smart View, right? We'll jump into Excel definitely during the presentation here. But a lot of those capabilities within Excel, you'll have within the reporting and analytics file. Again, maybe a little bit targeted more towards like, the individual contributors, department heads, budget owners, etc. Right? They might not be too comfortable within Excel. Hence, that's available within the web browser. Okay, perfect. Let's jump right into it. Let's begin from the bottoms up. We'll start with the operating expenses in this case. So let me preface what we're looking at first, right? So this point of view actually contains all the segments that we're planning the specific expense form at, right? So you can see we can do this at an individual location level. If you wanted to do it at a roll-up level of locations, great. You can do it at a roll-up level of locations as well. You can do it at different tax IDs, currency, and different departments. I will pause there from like an implementation standpoint. I'm assuming this is probably going to be done more at a location level more than anything.
Yeah, I think that would make sense for us.
Okay, perfect. Yep. And again, when it comes to the location level, right?
I mean, we would say store, for each store, each location is a store for us, or a studio technically.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yep, makes sense. The Pilates portion. Yeah, so I'll take you behind the scenes really quickly. And again, like all those stores are part of the location hierarchy, right? So if I open up total location, you're going to be able to see, I just grouped, essentially 1 through 4, but different levels of stores, right? So again, from an implementation standpoint, we're going to copy everything from the GL side. So however you have it set up there, whether it's like obviously store level and the amount of stores, we're going to be able to have those stores within the planning tool. So about 20 stores today, about 6 different tax IDs, etc. So those tax IDs will fall under this form as well. Perfect. Just continuing here, right? So you can see this is a pretty detailed expense form with all details of expenses. I'm going to highlight our actuals. So we actually have actuals as part of the system here. So you can see, hey, at least in Riser Fitness #1 at a US sub currency department, right? We do have some actuals coming into the system, right? So that's the neat thing about that metadata sync functionality. Those actuals will be available for you, right? So for example, instead of switching stores, I'm just going to switch maybe to like an admin view. And we're switching between the hierarchy right now. Instead of 60/70 being populated, right, we have more workforce, insurance expenses, etc., being loaded. With these actuals being in play, right, this is going to allow us to create a bottoms-up approach for each individual account. So, for example, if I look at this column here, hit this drop down, perfect, right? So I can actually create a 3-month rolling forecast, which will take May, June, July, roll forward. I have the ability to do a 6-month and 9-month, 12-month prior year or a manual approach. The neat thing about this is we do have customers who like want to roll off like maybe like FTEs or a specific revenue account or percentage of revenue, right? So we can allow for that within the planning tool in terms of different approaches to a rolling forecast. Maybe in this case, I'm just going to keep this simple. We'll just select the 3 months as essentially the average of everything from May through June. There is an adjustment column in here, right? So you can notice there is some negative adjustments being done on the bottom. But again, whether it's a positive adjustment or a negative, we can allow for that. So I'm just going to give this a slight bump here up to 10%. And you'll notice once I hit save and run this bottoms up forecast, you're going to see that, hey, everything outside of August onward will change based off of that 3-month rolling and that 10% adjustment. So let's make that happen now. I'll hit save here. Perfect. So you can see obviously the drastic increase, right? So again, we can go off of historicals, create a rolling from a bottoms up approach. I will create more examples. I will do some add backs off of the year total. I will continue doing it at a year total level, but at a total expense roll up adjustment. We'll get into that example as well. But before continuing, I will pause here. Any questions so far?
I'm good.
I'm good too. Brett?
I was going to say, you probably go through this, but maybe some accounts we're going to build from a bottom up based on trend, but maybe some accounts we're going to push down. You can accommodate all of those, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, excuse me, just getting over a cold here. Yeah. So not everything has to be rolled off of a percentage. It can be, you can even make adjustments based off of each individual account at a SAL level. So for example, let's say if I just want to, hey, I actually want to just make an adjustment to September. I can just highlight that view, right click, and then go to adjust, and then actually grid spread that each individual cell. So you can do it at a cell level. We'll get into this more as well, but if you wanted to target a value or percentage, hard number, plus or minus, you can do it at all sorts of level by each individual period.
And you can obviously do multiple variations. If I want to have 3 budgets, I'm going to name them something unique, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yep. So if I go to actions and go to analyze, this is going to take me more into ad hoc mode, but that's correct. If I open up the version segment and I hit this drop down, you're going to notice, hey, there's best case, worst case, mid case, etc. That's all available within the tool. You can also even take this one step further. So if you actually want to run, let's say, a worst case forecast, you can actually run that in parallel with a different segment, which is sometimes a little overkill for most organizations. But if you wanted to run a best case forecast or a worst case forecast with like a forecast #1, forecast #2, you can do so as well. So you can have like kind of a running parallel of different versions, which I think most organizations see as overkill, but it really depends up to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. All right, just continuing here. Got about 20 minutes left, I think. I'll let Nicole cut me off when it's close. But again, let's go to the add back approach, right? So for example, maybe I were to take, let's call it 6250 here as an example, right? You can see we have inserts for August through December for a year total amount of 205 and change. Let's say if I were to adjust that year total to like, let's call it 500,000, right? I'll take 500,000 K. You will notice that 500,000 doesn't split out evenly into those 5 remaining periods, but it actually recognizes from the start, hey, August was weighted more heavy, excuse me, can't talk today, than the other months. Hence, we're going to spread August and December the same amount, but then the 3 middle ones kind of get spread out into the existing weighted values, right? So you can do an add back approach and split the delta into the heaviest months remaining of the year. So it allows you to do add backs based off of weighted values in here. If you were to have no, like, let's say here's disability, right? There's no current inputs for August through December. I can take that year total view and let's just enter 1 million for it. And it will divvy up by those 5 remaining months in the year, since there's no current weighted values for each individual period. So you can do this top level adjustments at an account level. Hey, I want to take that year total view and then make an adjustment based off of all expenses for that specific location, sub, etc. I can just right click. Hey, there's that 4.2 million, go to adjust, grid spread, right? So there's that same value now being populated here. So different methods, as we saw earlier, I can plus or minus percentage or target any value. Let's say if I just wanted to keep this simple and just adjust everything by a positive 10% adjustment. Hey, if there's that new value, all I have to do is hit apply. And now I can see all those cells in yellow change based off of that 10% adjustment. Okay.
Here's a question. So as far as making these adjustments, obviously it makes sense. You can do them at the studio level. But if I wanted to do some of this forecasting or budgeting at the high level and have it be pushed down to each individual studio, how is that? Is that done similarly? You just basically you pick like a higher level type and you put in like a total that's going to be coming up for the next 5 months, and it just kind of spreads them.
That's exactly right. And you can limit, like, if you're going to start getting those individual studios like general managers involved,
yeah,
you can actually give them certain accounts to only input. You don't have to give them everything in here from like.
So they can get obviously specific studios that they're involved with, that they're managing, specific accounts that we want them to have. They put those in, and then let's say let's say there's certain corporate level expenses that we want to budget as, like, the CFO will budget. We can put that on our side, and then we can again, depending on various scenarios, we can push that down to all studios and all entities. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. So you can create like each planning template for each individual person. For example, I think we will talk about workforce planning here in a short while, but obviously maybe you don't want all of benefits, all of compensation being distributed through all like the location GMs, obvious for like for obvious reasons. But yeah, that's correct. You nailed that right on the head. You can adjust different accounts based off of different user groups.
Yeah.
Perfect. Elaine, any scoping questions? I probably helped you with the location based already, but anything on your end on the expense side, or?
I'm good.
Okay.
Elaine,
I think you might be on mute there. Anything on your end?
Yeah, was gonna say it's a year-end calendar based on December, right? December end.
Yeah, we're at 12/31.
Okay, awesome. And planning only in US dollar, I'm assuming.
Sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, it's planning in US dollar, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, it's all US dollars.
Okay,
That's right.
yeah. Awesome.
So Vince, income statement's fairly kind of, I think we've all been exposed to something similar to this. Are you going to have a chance to touch on the cash flow projections and the balance sheet projections?
Yeah, we can talk about working capital and balance sheet setup and planning as well. Yeah, totally. Is there anything that specific that you wanted to talk about? And
Just how you would build a cash flow projection. So in a similar fashion, I've built a lot of the income statement stuff. I haven't built a lot in terms of cash flow. Maybe Cam has, but I'm just curious how you guys do it from a forecasting standpoint.
got it. Yep. So out of the box here, we use the indirect method.
Actually, I'm more concerned, you know what? Forget about the accounting cash flow. Do you guys do like a rolling 13-week or something like that built in?
Built in, no, we do not have it built in, but you can do it with rolling 13 weeks. We can set that up for you from like implementation standpoint if you want.
Got it. And then and then obviously certain things roll because they're based off of like, historical, this is a fixed cost that happens every third week or every fourth week or whatever. And then obviously if, we'll put some fluxes for revenue. Is that how you guys would build it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so we'll apply that same approach, whether it's like on the revenue side, expense side, just like those.
Okay. So then with like something like this, where you say you guys can build it, basically this is like a customized report that would be an additional piece of our implementation, like added on to cost of the implementation, right?
Correct. Yeah. If you were to like insert like a 13-week rolling, that would be like an additional set amount of hours. It's not a heavy lift per se, but
yeah. And then I think Fred, for more what you care about, which is I think you do like the high level, like actual cash flow, like accounting wise, you're more thinking of like an actual cash flow, like going from like.
No, I'm thinking forward looking. I wasn't thinking in terms of weeks. I was thinking if I've got, I've got my prior 12 months and I want to project it forward. I've got loan payment schedules that I want to build into the model. I want to have my income coming from my income statement projected forward, as well as somehow we're going to put in or change in the balance sheet items. Just how do we do that going forward? But I think having it rolling, having it set up and automatically refresh and update based on your instructions or your formulas, I think that would be huge.
But it seems like it's like, again, we just got to see if it's something we want to pay for to build or not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
What are your thoughts there? Do you want to think on it? Do you want us to?
I think we got to think on it. I think we need Ed's input on this one, on most of the stuff on here. So I think what we'll do is we'll work with you and see if maybe we add that onto the quote, working on a 13-week cash flow.
But just doing a budgeted cash flow out of the box has got to be something that we can do, right? That you have.
Yeah. Is there any specific examples around like what you want budgeted? Like was it mostly on the revenue side, expense side, or?
No, I'm talking about the balance sheet. I want to know. So we've done our projections for the fiscal year. We know what we're projecting on the income statement side. Now, how do I translate that into projection on my balance sheet?
Got it. Yep. Let's actually. Do you want to dive into there now? Is that okay? I know we don't.
I'm just thinking because we're kind of short on time, and the income statement's pretty intuitive.
Yep. Yeah. Perfect. Let's go into the balance. This is just asking me to save changes. Okay, let's actually start from ground zero. Yep. So part of setting up balance sheet, there is working capital capability set up, so like DSO, DPO as well. If you want to see that, I can quickly just dive into it. Right. So setting up working capital is available, and it is out of the box, right, to start planning for balance sheet. So the inventory piece will be in here, the payables and receivables as well. So from a projection standpoint, right, what it's at least on the inventory side, let's move to payables. This will probably, there we go. Right, on the payable side, future purchases of credit, right? So you can enter those percentages as you see fit. Excuse me. Where was I? Percentages on credit, you can start, fluctuating between higher percentages, lower percentages, etc. DPO, right? Those amounts can be fluctuated. So on the actual side, you'll be able to see those actuals as well within the planning tool, right? We'll capture that from the GL side. But again, if you actually wanted to change what those amounts were, you are able to do that, and obviously to impact your balance sheet. Perfect. And then the last comment right here would be like the creditor's payments committed. So you can enter those amounts as well. So essentially helping up set up the working capital. So let's go to the balance sheet portion really quickly. Perfect. Okay, so what we're looking at is on the reporting side, right? So you can see this at a roll-up level as well. So since you have about 6 different tax IDs, you can see this at a roll-up level as well. So we'll get to that portion shortly. Let's set up into the planning. Let's jump into there, right? So let's jump into this tab, which will set up from a driver perspective. Perfect. And let me actually expand this really quickly. There we go. So everything that we set up in working capital, right? DSO, DPO, the inventory portion, you can actually start, creating those drivers. So for example, on the DSO side, you can use to roll off of, DSO, you can use current year. You have prior year. If you want to do a manual adjustment, great. And you have that same adjustment column in here. So this is one that we saw on the expense side. It's the same approach to it, whether it's a positive tick or a negative tick. So this is up on the DSO, DPO, and also on the inventory. When it comes to exploring all of the balance sheet, right? So here it is. Let me get my highlighter out. So on the driver side, right, to drive balance sheet, some of these you would definitely want to select that driver approach. So in this case, the receivables, and obviously we're doing this off of DSO. But the other ones, let me toggle down. Perfect. Right, other ones you might want to select DPO, etc. You'll see the accounts that have the other rolling methods, right? So inventory and stock is rolling off inventory setup, prepaids, etc. So you'll have that balance sheet driver here selection that you want. There's also a trend based as well. I think somebody just brought up the trend. That's also available in the balance sheet. So for example, 1010, right? If you wanted to roll off of, in this case, we're doing it off of current years. It can be done as a percentage of sales, right? Previous year actuals. Again, if you want to do like a 2-month rolling, a 1-month rolling, etc. on the trend approach, you can select that as well. But then you also have the percentage uptick for that trend portion as well. So you can, this is obviously quite the jump, right? 50% adjustment, which will impact the forecast after July. But again, you can do this at a roll-up level if you want, from a reporting standpoint, at a different tax ID view, or you can see everything even from a reporting standpoint at a consolidated view. We'll pause there. I'm sure there's some questions.
Can you scroll down to the liabilities in the equity section? All right, so now I've got my EIDL loan. I'm going to start entering I'm going to start making payments. Is this going to be able to allow me to project that forward? Or I've got some notes that have, some are paying interest, some are paying accruing interest. How do I kind of build that into it? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So from a setup perspective, any of these liability, let me toggle further down, the liability portions, right? So we will bake that in from the GL side. So if those are sitting in NetSuite, core NetSuite, we will capture those from an implementation standpoint. So from from adding it in, that probably won't need to happen. But from a planning perspective, if you did want to add those in, you can. It's a matter of just actually going to actions and then going to analyze. And then we can start adding those other individuals that we want. So this is on the asset side. I'm just going to pick a row here, and you can start making those individual adjustments, right? So I'm going to enter, let's see, I'm going to right click here and enter a row. Perfect. Now I have a row in here that I can actually right click and now enter any other, amount that I want, or account or line item that I would like. And you can actually start planning off of that as well. So yeah, you can have various movements per se for each individual account. It necessarily doesn't have to be a driver, or then you have the trend approach as well for those views.
Okay, so if I've got a loan amortization schedule, I'm gonna have to keep that offline and I'll be able to manually load it in here and input into the projections. It doesn't capture that. If I've got, if I want to do multiple scenarios of some VC investors, I would keep that separated and then move it into a statistical account to build that into the model.
You can do that,
Yeah.
or if you have everything in a spreadsheet already, you can actually open this up in SmartView, which is that Excel integration, and you have more flexibility there too. So I can open this up either from the UI or I can go into SmartView. But yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, and then if
Yes.
I change it in the spreadsheet in SmartView, it automatically goes back into this.
Correct. Yeah, you can upload any even calcs from SmartView into the database itself.
Okay.
Yep. Elaine, did you have any questions there or?
Yeah, I was trying to say something. Monthly movements, it's a member of the tracker segment. So of course, there's something we could make. We could try to add some different types of movements in there. I think the client is looking for, forgot the word, continuity schedules. So, yeah, something could be done, but we need to customize it. If not, you could still keep it in Excel and just use SmartView, just like Vince is saying, and load it in there, just like our clients are doing at the moment. And yes, Vince, the tracker version, it's the movements, it's kind of a data type, so it's baked into the application. So
Okay, perfect.
yeah. If you look for monthly movements in the structure, so you can, well, if we had time, we could show the clients that we could capture various movement and put a total and be able just to capture any types of movement for any specific account. So is it the write-off, it's a new addition, or FX impact, prior year adjustment, or that kind of stuff? All yours, Vince.
Perfect. That's a good explanation, Elaine. I will pause here. Fred, Daniela, Cam, any other questions here?
That answered the question.
I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
I
good
think,
too.
yeah, I think we see what's going on. It's good.
Perfect. Yeah, the cash flows, it's all in direct method here, right? So everything essentially that you built up in the previous form, so the balance sheet and obviously the P&L, you'll get here. You'll have all of this as well. So you can see it at an individual tax ID level. If you wanted to view it at a consolidated view, you can see that in here as well. So you'll have company, right? Each individual tax ID, and then the consolidated view. You can do that from a balance sheet perspective as well when it comes to reporting. So there we go. You'll have the balance, wrong one. There's a consolidated view, right? You'll have all of them in here. So instead of countries, they'll be your tax IDs or the entities, etc. So you can see the consolidated view from a reporting standpoint. I will pause there. I think we're almost at time. Any other questions or
Actually, before we open it up, I wanted to ask, do we want to just spend the rest of our scheduled time together going through this component, and we can always schedule a follow-up demonstration for the analytics warehouse? I just want to make sure we, are maximizing our time, or I can go 30 minutes over.
I'm just kind of curious. Daniela, do you know if KLW houses any of their data in a warehouse because I have no idea. I don't know the client, honestly.
Oh, I had asked that question. So I know, so the analytics warehouse, I know you guys are using, it was Tableau today. Is that correct?
Okay, that sounds right.
Is that correct? Tableau from like a reporting standpoint visual?
Daniela, do you know?
No, I'm not 100% of it.
Cam, I think may have had.
Yeah, Ed will be the one that fully knows about that.
The fact that you mentioned Tableau must have come up in one of our previous meetings.
Yeah, it came
Okay.
up. Tableau isn't
Okay.
a data warehouse, it's a business intelligence
It's
tool.
just- yeah.
It came up on the demonstration with Dave, and everyone had said, yeah, let's see if NetSuite has something to replace Tableau, and so that that would be what we call our analytics warehouse.
I would say that you'll probably want to push that off only because I can't even spell Tableau, and I don't think Daniela or I use it.
No.
So it might be lost on us whether or not it meets the current needs, since we don't know the current use. So
That's
I
fine.
think it's a good idea to punt it.
Okay. I assume Cam agrees, given he's on mute, but
He just asked if I could fill in. He had to jump out and do something.
okay,
So he's
Well,
still on, but he's may not in earshot.
got it. So let's push the analytics warehouse demonstration out, and we'll just spend the rest of the time focusing here.
Okay, good call.
Yeah.
All right, where were we, Vince? I think we were opening up the floor for questions.
Yes, I did want to jump into workforce planning. This is a little bit more assumption based instead of kind of historical method. It's still part of obviously the expense P&L side, but I did want to ask about it, or even open up the floor if that's something of interest to you all.
What is it? Are we talking about headcount?
Correct. Yeah, creating by each individual person within your organization. So instead of like a historical, more account-based, build up, it's more. I can plan each individual's, compensation at a detailed level. Is essentially what that is.
And that works regardless of whether or not we use your payroll module or somebody else. We just have to import the data versus having it native, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, if you're, any payroll system, you just upload it, and yep, you called it out.
Nicole, did you touch base with? Did you have any luck in finding out who's going to be on that payroll demo?
I did not. I haven't heard from Ed or got the questionnaire. Will anyone that's online now be included on the payroll demonstration?
I think that it's used Lauren, Ed, and your team, Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay, so just Lauren and Ed.
Mhm.
I have not heard back from them on dates or times. Daniela, if you want, could you send me Laura's email address
Yes.
in the chat, and I can send it to her, and then I can work with her to actually book that demonstration.
So just out of curiosity, I apologize for my ignorance here. If the planning, this FP&A module is a separate module, right? And if we do not have that module, then we don't have the ability to project or create a budget in the out of the box.
No.
Okay. And
That's
then
not correct, Vince. They would just import that. They don't need to be using our payroll or workforce management or anything of that nature to be able.
That's yeah. So yeah, it's agnostic, right? So if there's
It doesn't matter. Okay.
If they're still on Paycom, they can upload their payroll roster into the planning tool and go from there. So
and you guys integrate with a lot of the payroll providers out there, right?
Yep.
So even though you may integrate, would it not populate this workforce module if we had it?
If there was an integration, you're saying between, let's say you go with Paycom.
Right, exactly. So it would just load the current and give us a way to kind of say, we're giving this much of a raise, this is their anniversary. It would already have all that information, or we'd have to manually upload a spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, if it's coming from that other payroll system, we just extract a CSV file and then it will load directly into NetSuite Planning and Budgeting workforce.
Elaine, he's saying if they built out an integration between the payroll system and NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, would auto populate versus having to upload if they built out an integration.
No, well, what we're doing it's a CSV file integration, but no, it could be possible to integrate if wanted.
Yeah,
but for us, we would integrate to a CSV only.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us what it looks like in the workforce module?
Yes, I would love.
yeah, like what levers do we have to play with?
Yeah, let's do it. Yep. All right, so let's jump into it. Here we go. Let me go to US really quickly. There we go. Perfect. All right, so what we're looking at is the roll-up view of the company roster. So we can see this at a roll-up level. If we wanted to see this at a department level, great. You can look at this at a location level as well, if you would like, right? But essentially, it's tagging all each individual employees. And then here, let me kind of walk us through this, right? So hire date will be in there, termination date as well. So from a planning perspective, if you hire someone for a quarter, obviously their forecast doesn't carry over into other periods. Job title, employee type, whether they're salary or hourly is baked in here, right? Their payout and then their pay rates. Let me toggle over. Cool. So department allocation will be in here as well. We probably won't be using this much since you're more location focused, but it is available in here. Overtime percentage, bonus, right? And raise. Tom isn't getting a raise. But again, you can allow for those percentage drivers to be in here as well, right? So you'll have all three types of drivers, whether it's percentage, dollar amounts, or assumption based. You can have those in here. So like pay raise, 401k participation, yay or nay. When we get into like the medical, dental, vision rates, etc., those have different assumptions in them. So for example, medical plan has 4 different assumptions, right? Some weighing more than others. And we'll get into that assumption setup here as well. So we'll give it a couple of minutes and we'll dive right into those assumption setups. Same with dental plan, right? So that's going to have 4 different financial assumptions. So we have this drop down. There we go. And same with vision and work location. So let's jump into those setups here. I know we don't have a lot of time, but let's go into the setup tab here. Perfect. So again, we can do this by tax ID, right? So we're just going to stick to the US. I have work days and months tagged here, even breaking it down by current year, but also the following year. So each individual period will be in here. Pay periods are also baked in. When we go to the annual assumption tab, so we can see, hey, here's 401 eligible days after, right? 90 for this, 90 for the following. You have hourly hours per day, right? 401k percentage, merit months, maybe merit months for the following year will be towards the end. FICA percentage, FICA max, Medicare, FUTA max, etc. So pretty detailed when it comes to the annual assumptions. Those monthly assumptions, just to ask if I want to save changes, will be baked in here as well. So like medical rates, dental, vision, etc. will be in here. You can see when the forecast starts carrying, in this case, after August. You can make these assumption changes actually in Smart View, right? So you can actually make them within the user interface. But if I open this up within Smart View, right, which is that bi-directional view, where is Workforce? Here she is. Workforce setup, go to monthly assumptions. We're going to see that same setup, right? So maybe I'm going to set the employee plus family. I'll change this to another 50. And we're just going to spread it through the rest of the year. We're going to hit submit data. Perfect. You can still see it's set 350 throughout the rest of the year. All I have to do is hit refresh here. And now we can see that 400 take into place, right? So essentially we can push even the assumption setup through and it will take it into the database. The last tab here from creating assumptions, our location, right? So I have all 50 states. Primarily, I believe you guys are in one, but again, you can have these payroll taxes, SUTA max, and by sub as well. We'll pause there. Questions?
Well, actually, I think legal, we're in 3 states currently, and do you manage different assumptions based on city, municipality, or things? I mean, San Diego's different rules than California. Does it allow that flexibility?
You can. I mean, you can get as detailed as you want when it comes to creating up these location assumptions. Right. But yep. So.
Okay.
And they're essentially just all calcs, right? Because you can, add different columns into the spreadsheet and just push them back. Probably what you would be doing on the balance sheet side, and still capture those changes and be able to, upload whether it's like a hard number, percentage based, etc. Cool. From a reporting standpoint, right? So the reporting can be done within SmartView or even the user interface. So what we're looking at is the roll-up level of all employees, but you'll be able to see salary plus all variables to total compensation. You can drill down into employees and see the existing employees, but also let me toggle, it's too far down, the new employees, right? So the to be hireds, we'll be able to see those as well. So if I drill into new employees, instead of seeing a roll-up level of it, we can see, hey, there's to be hired one, and we'll explore that to be hired one here shortly. So you can kind of see, hey, to be hired one is at 88K after March, right? We're probably going to start at that time period, and then the following year, quite drastic change, right? So if we needed to make us changes to current employees or the planning employees, we kind of have a good idea of where to start. On the planning side, right? So again, you can plan employees at a department level, at an individual level as well. So in this case, we're going to make adjustments to Tom Anderson by different subs. If you wanted to add location in here, it's just a different segment. You can do that as well. So it just really depends on the level of planning by segmentation you would like to do that at. We'll pause there. Any questions on the workforce side here?
Oh, I don't think so. If I'm on the actual side, not in the planning, and I click on salaries, I'm going to drill down and see the exact actuals by an employee level, right?
Yes.
Okay.
From like yes. Yep.
And then from that screen where I see maybe the first 6 months, will I also be able to see the projection, or no? You know what I guess I don't know if my question is even making sense, but we do a budget, we do a plan. So we plan this guy's going to get a raise in June, ends up getting the raise early for the year in March. You know how you have in the other expenses, you're showing your year-to-date actuals by month, and you're showing a revised projection moving forward for like a pro forma projection for the calendar year. Does it do something similar to that here on an employee level, or no?
You can actually drill back from like the account. So whether it's like a total compensation view or like benefits account, and see that each individual employee, because it's all one database. So you're essentially just drilling back to its full details, right? To the full details, and then be able to see if you want each individual employee, because those employees will be tagged, obviously, whether it's on the planning side or on the actual side of employees to those accounts.
Okay, so if I ended up terminating one person and hiring another person, I'd see the original budget and I'd see the new person kind of in separate rows over different time frames.
That's correct. And plus, once you upload, a new CSV, like let's say the following month, or if we're in the next month, right? Obviously, from that payroll data, that person might not even be in there, so it won't even they'll be out of the system, if that makes sense. You'll have the new individual to be planned or to be hired in that CSV download.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, got 5 minutes left. All right, I know we didn't talk a lot about SmartView on the reporting side, but I did want to bring it up because I think it's pretty important. So I just have a generic P&L. Let me hit refresh. So as I mentioned from the start, right, it is all one database. So I'm highlighting the database, which is 23422, and you're going to see that same amount here, 23422. So it is all one database, whether it's on the reporting side or on the planning side as well. All right, let me open this up. Perfect. And just to keep prefacing, you actually have the segments that are implemented on the GL side available in all spreadsheets with that smart view integration. So whether it's like, obviously you're probably going to be doing everything at a location level, you have location, tax IDs, currencies, etc. But what we're looking at is you have a detailed P&L, right, done by each individual period. If I actually double right click on my mouse underneath January, it's going to roll up to your total view. Excuse me. I can roll it up to your total view. So double right click on the forecast or on the projection side is going to roll up to your total view. I can do that as well. You'll notice row 1 contains actual and forecast, right? So they're not variances per se. They're each individually on their own column. But I can actually pivot this entire row up to the point of view. So if I hit pivot, pivot to point of view, there's the actual and then there's forecast, right? So those are the two that we currently had in there. So let me hit the dot, dot, dot. And that's going to open up a menu page. It usually opens up on my other screen. Oh no, is Excel going to crash on me? It did not. Okay, perfect. So there's actual and forecast, right? So we had that in row 1 previously, and then there's the segment that it belongs to, which is called scenarios. You can see, hey, there's actual, forecast, budget. Those are the standalone scenarios. But if we wanted to actually add variance scenarios, predefined, we already have a lot out of the box. So performance to budget, to forecast, to prior forecast, etc. So we can add, let's say I'll add performance to budget and then as a percentage as well. I can bring those over, right? Hit OK here. I don't know why my Excel's being so slow. There's performance to budget as a percentage. I can just quickly tag those and drop them in. And now you can see those additional columns and the outputs of it, right? So pretty detailed P&L. If you just wanted to see gross profit, great. We can hit keep only here. It is going to recognize when you type in like expense. So it's going to bring up total expense and tag that in here. If you wanted to see this essentially KPI view by location, we can. The neat thing about this is we can actually add also KPIs to like even further this management report. So let's hit member selection here. Perfect. And let me click and drag over. Let's open up some stat accounts, right? Maybe I wanted to see some financial stat accounts to see how well I'm performing. So let's add gross. We'll add EBITDA. Perfect to the report. On the right-hand side, we'll hit OK here. There's gross, there's margin. All I have to do is hit refresh. Great, and now we're going to see those KPIs in here. And if I wanted to break this down quickly into location, I can just actually bring that entire location segment down and then zoom into the hierarchy. So I'm going to zoom into all levels of the hierarchy. And now I can see all of my locations in here as well. So I can see their performance and how they're doing. So if I just wanted to keep maybe one specific location, right, I can do so. So whether it's Riser Fitness 1, 2, or I can just leave it at a roll-up level as well. So different views to go about it. We'll pause there. Questions?
I just have a, and this, if this is a longer discussion, that's fine. We can put it off. But if I'm doing some analysis where I want to say, all right, I'm going to build a standard new location, and there's going to be maybe 5 things that drive the income statement and the capital requirements to build out a new location. And I'm here and I just want to hypothesize, okay, if we added one location or another, a second or a third or a fourth in this particular state that doesn't exist now. It's not in the GL because it's hypothetical. Can I do that in this planning module so that I can see, all right, what cash am I going to need? What's my roll up? What are my income and expenses going to be? What are my capital requirements going to be? Is that something that lends itself well to this type of a tool? If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, let me open the separate demo environment here. Stand by, please. Cool. Yeah, so you can do a lot of like what ifing even by like different segments as well. Let's go to financial plan. Let's just do it at an expense level for now, but you can do it on the revenue side if you would like. Let's go to other expenses here. Yeah, so you can, let me preface, right? So this is just some overhead expenses. You can create different levels of like what ifing, whether it's like going to be done by different segments, locations, etc. You can quickly do that, right? So in this case, this is our main working forecast, for example. If I wanted to add a sandbox to it to just compare different overhead expenses, maybe if I open up a new location, right? So let's open up a new location. We're just going to call this new location, just for simplicity's sakes. We'll let that be created. Perfect. So here's my new location, right? And maybe this new location for overhead expenses is going to carry a little bit more weight than what our main working locations are. So I don't know, I'm just going to make some drastic advertising. Maybe it's $1 million for the entire year since it's a new location. And maybe we have, I don't know, some legal services as well. So once I save this, let's hit save here. Perfect. So it made those saved changes. Perfect. I can view this in the sandbox comparison, and I can start kind of comparing, hey, there's my main working forecast, but now I have my new location as well. And then I can also see, the output of it from a dashboard view. To even take this one step further, right, from an analysis standpoint. So for example, let's say if I were to get rid of, let's get rid of the location view. So we'll pivot this back to the point of view. This base segment actually has, what if in here as well. So if I hit the ... it's going to open up that menu page. I don't know why my Excel is so slow today. Let me click and drag. Perfect. So there's best case, worst case, etc. Right? I can add those in here and hit OK. And now they're even part of the reporting process as well. So if I wanted to see best case, worst case by each individual location, right? So I can actually just drag down my location, and then I can open up best case, worst case, and even drag that on top of those. So you'll be able to see best case by different locations, or even when you start planning for the new location. When it comes to like revenue planning, kind of just taking a step further here again. Let's jump into revenue really quickly. I know we're over time. You can do what ifing even at a detailed level. So let's go to a top level adjustment, right? So for example, your different classes, etc. So class 1, class 4, class unlimited, right? Unlimited classes. You can do this at a location level. You can actually have different forecast views for this. So you can apply that view to like, hey, I actually want my pricing for a different location to be different than another location, right? So you can create different forecasts based off of different locations and different pricing methods. Obviously, you'll just adjust everything on the projection side for those 3 classes and go from there.
So if I want to tie this to that new location that you created on the expense side, can I link the revenue and the expense in the same location?
Yes, on the same location. Yep. So even from a reporting standpoint, right, we're doing this more at a KPI view, but yeah, you can do it from a total location view, right? So let's get rid of some of these. Actually, let's just add some new accounts, right? So let's begin this over just for simplicity's sake, right? So we'll go to analyze. Perfect. right? And then we'll keep gross profit, and then we'll just kind of same process. We'll just type in expense. That way it's easy. And then we can bring that base. Let me hit that ... again, which we can do the what ifing in. I do apologize. My Excel's pretty slow today. I don't know. There we go. Click and drag. Best case, worst case. There it is. Perfect.
And this has got those the overhead expenses that you added with the additional $1 million in marketing with the new pricing on the new location on the revenue side. So I'm just trying to think how I'm going to build out a model that I want to then be able to copy and clone and adjust, like you say, maybe in certain cities or certain states, it's going to be a different set of assumptions, but I want to have these that I can draw from and say, all right, say we want to grow 3 stores in Oregon or 3 stores in Washington. Boom, boom, boom. And I wanted to be able to cleanly set that up and then tell me what my cash, maybe the first 3 months are going to be at a loss, depending on the timing. You know what I mean? I mean, I understand you can get the answer, but I'm just trying to figure out, is it something that's simple or is it something that's, I need to hire you guys to build,
No, that's really what this tool is intended to do. As as part of like the budgeting for like a main working forecast, the revenue portion, but even on like the what ifing portion. Hey, I'm going to add a new location. What's my cash going to be for the first quarter, etc. That's really what this tool is intended to do. From like a ramp up perspective, there's 2 different ways how we teach our customers to use this. We have a self-pace way, which kind of just gives you a bunch of videos, like more instruction scripts, and then the other way, which is also included, will be like more individual sessions. So if you have like a specific use case in mind, which you just called out, right, a little bit more on the what ifing side, they'll kind of just gear a lot of that training to like the what ifing side as well. So
okay, all right, gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate the extra time.
Yeah, absolutely. I will stop sharing screen here.